What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. This is TJ Zwarich with another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. We have been busy. Ahsoka finale this week. Just dropped an episode where we talked to the wonderful authors of MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios, Joanna Robertson, Dave Gonzalez, as well as Gavin Edwards. And we got New York Comic Con next week. We got our interviews from Edmonton Expo, Saskatchewan Expo, all up on the feed. Make sure you're checking them out. But now it is time for Loki. I am joined, as always, by my good buddy and co-host, Adam Blevins. How you doing? You are muted, Adam. Great start.
Oh no, I'm already, just the first time we're already off to a bad start. No, but I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here with you guys. And like you said, talking about this week being so busy, I feel like I've been in the TVA because I just can't even keep track of time. Like when they say time works differently in the TVA, I'm like, is it Friday? Is it Tuesday? Is it Sunday morning? I have no idea. But busy is always good in terms of like that because then you don't have time to think about everything that's going on. You just got to go and get it done. So otherwise, things could be so much worse. This has been a great week, and I'm super excited to cap it off with another awesome episode with two great people.
Last night I was turning on the football game and my wife Ava goes, "Oh, is it Monday Night Football?" And I go, Nope, it's Thursday today, actually. We got a very exciting guest today as well. Shout out to him for coming on with such late notice for this recording. Our guy, co-host of Phase Zero from comicbook.com, Aaron Perine. How you doing?
Very, very good. It's good to be in the Loki era and on the way to a wild weekend for me too. So I'm like, man, it's going to be, I understand what you mean. I don't know. It could be Monday. It could be Thursday. It could be whatever. It could be November. They're selling Christmas crap in the stores already, TJ. I don't know, man.
Christmas crap, pumpkins everywhere. The Haunted Mansion movie released in the middle of the summer. We have no idea what at this point. Ever since the pandemic hit, the entire timeline has just been affected. You know, this was Loki season 1. When that happened, all sense of time just disappeared from all of our lives. We're going to immediately get into spoilers here. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure you subscribe to the Agents of Fandom podcast wherever you get your pods. And follow us on socials at Agents Fandom on Twitter and TikTok, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. But let's dive right into it, because even though I've loved basically every single Marvel TV show except for the last one we got, Secret Invasion, because that last one was Secret Invasion, it just kind of feels like we've been waiting for this big kind of comeback. And Loki season 2, it's that. I've been saying I think it benefits from it being a season 2. It just immediately fast paced right off the get go. What did you think about episode 1, Adam?
Well, I completely agree with you that I think it definitely benefits from this being a season 2 and this fast pace, because so many of the previous Marvel shows, you know, they're very much a slow burn, especially for those first few episodes. It takes them a while to kind of establish these characters and establish the world and all that kind of stuff. But this, we know season 1 ended with just complete chaos. So it was like this big question, are they just going to throw us right back in? Is it going to be he fixed the problem and he's back, or what? And it's like, no, this is just right where we left off in complete mayhem. And it was really, really refreshing to see, because I was worried about it. I'm like, please, I hope this isn't we're going to descend back from chaos and then work our way back up to it. No, we're just starting right back, cranked up to 11. And frankly, that's exactly how I wanted it. I couldn't have been happier with this episode. I mean, we're talking about the pacing and the action and the fast pace and all that stuff, but there's some great writing and great cinematography. The TVA, the VFX all look incredible. I mean, they came to play. Loki's back, and they're swinging heavy with this one, and they're hitting right now. They did a great job.
It's crazy how you contrast this episode to something like the very first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is a series that I love, but they had to release 2 for that premiere, because the first episode, Sam and Bucky, they don't even interact until right at the end, and they're not together until the second and beyond. This one, like you said, there's no time to get into that. We're just immediately picking off on season 1. What'd you think about it, Aaron?
It does definitely benefit from the season 2 moniker. It definitely benefits from that. We don't have to set anything up. You guys know what's going on here. Everything's crazy. Kang's here. We should probably stop that. And we're literally running from the first frame. I was really surprised because they put out a sneak peek online before the episode dropped. And it was just Tom Hiddleston running full sprint through one of the hallways of TVA. And I was like, oh, so we're just doing it. All right, great. Like, excellent. So it's good to be back. I'm a sucker for like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, like Owen Wilson, Tom Hiddleston back and forth, like just chattering. And then you add Ki Kwan into it. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, oh, we got something here. I really enjoy it. Now, my co-host Brandon Davis, of course, says he had to rewatch it like 2 times to get all the things that get said, like to get all the technical babble and stuff. And so if you're not in that really technical space of the MCU, that might have to be a problem. But it's so comforting to like know what's going on, like know what you're walking directly into, that I think it really, really does benefit from it. Like imagine if Secret Invasion episode 1 had ended the first episode with the reveal about Fury's wife rather than waited till episode 2 or whatever it was to like do that. It would have probably gotten off to a better start. So they've learned some things about the pace you need to have.
Yeah, and they, like, straight off the bat, Kang statues are everywhere. No one knows who Loki is. And then we see him time slipping throughout the TVA, which of course we'll get into later. I do have some logic I want to throw down to how I think this works, because shout out to our resident time travel hater, Damon Gray, who just immediately was just like, I love, like, this looks great, but I hate time travel so much. This is going to be a tough episode, like, tough series for me. And he's texting me afterwards, like, what's going on with this? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't follow the rules. This doesn't follow the rules. I'm here. I'm ready to explain how it follows the rules. So we will get into that. But everything is just chaos. We see the multiverse and all the branches on their screens, the loom, it's all over the place. We see, like, we get a quick recording of Renslayer from the End of Time talking with He Who Remains, and they're talking about sharing it together, adding intrigue that we hadn't seen before. Adam, like, as all of this is happening so quick, I find it interesting because it's like, it's really like 20 minutes before we get into the classic Mobius and Loki banter and things calm down just a little bit. The first 20 minutes are just like, bang, 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 civil war in the TVA, Renslayer recording, no one knows who Loki is, it's chaos. What were like the main things you picked up upon that maybe either surprised you or you enjoyed?
Well, throughout the first 20 minutes, I don't know, I was really skeptical going in, you know, like I was afraid they were going to do this kind of thing. What do they do in the Book of Boba Fett and then back in the Mandalorian? It's like they tear these two apart, like Loki and Mobius, they rip them apart. And then, like, I was just afraid when we pick right back up, like, they're going to be immediately right back together somehow. And it was just, and then we were going to get a conversation 5 minutes in explaining, like, oh, yeah, Loki ended up here, but we brought him back or something like that. And then it's just with how they start out. And then we see him again. He's like, kind of relive that same moment. Like, I don't know you. I have no idea who you are. And I'm like in this just ethereal state of panic for Loki again. I'm like, how long is this going to go on? Like, is this going to be 3 episodes? Is this going to end in 15 minutes? And like, I think they play all that out really well. You know, we've talked about this before. One of the biggest compliments that I can pay any kind of show like this is when I'm just not even compelled to look away to look down, look at my phone or anything like that. I'm just completely singularly focused on what's happening. And I've watched this episode twice. I watched it when we got the screeners, and I was able to rewatch it again today. And even like knowing what was happening and what was coming, I was just like locked all the way in. So I mean, I think they handled these first like 20 minutes or so just like straight into the action. I think they did a great job with it.
And Aaron, it's like you mentioned that like Loki is just running through those hallways stressed out. He really acts as like the audience through that entire thing, because for us, we're almost watching it like, dude, just explain what happened. Explain what you saw. It's been 2 years. Like, just tell them. But for him, like, no, this just happened. And so he's freaking out, and it really ups the intensity of the start of the episode.
Yeah, like it's like almost like a meta thing. Like the audience knows Kang is coming. We know about Kang Dynasty. We know about Secret Wars. It's a big deal. It's a problem. Hey, you guys haven't even reunited the Avengers yet to like take on this threat. Shouldn't we have a little bit more like urgency? But for the characters that don't know, they just don't know. They're like, I mean, what are you he looks like a person who's having a mental episode for about half of this entry. Like Mobius, like, slow down. What's going on? When he grabs basically the gun off of the other hunter to like prune the wall, that's a real like, all right, buddy, calm down. What's going on? And then when he actually is right. It really shakes everybody because this ranting, raving Tom Hiddleston doing hair flips is completely 100% right. You all need to be really concerned. We are talking right now and trying to fix this, but like Kang is out there and he's a real threat, you know.
And it was actually interesting. I rewatched it this morning immediately after watching the 4th episode of Gen V. And so without getting into spoilers for that one, there's a character of Sam named Sam who he's just like, he's freaking out and they're trying to talk him down. And then seeing this immediately after, like, it really reminded me of that scene of like, oh yeah, he's going, that would be terrifying. Like, he's holding a pruner right to your face, and then he jams it into the wall. He unveils everything, and it really leads, like, this He Who Remains Followed, it leads to kind of like a civil war in the TVA where you got Docs and her crew saying like, we just got to pay her all of this shit. We got to take some bombs, take some staffs, and we got to get rid of all of this, protect the timeline. And then you have the other half where B-15 is trying to explain it, Mobius is trying to explain it, and then Loki has joined the squad trying to say like, we've been doing this all wrong the whole time. And it really reminded me of living in Canada, where I just go my entire elementary school and high school life thinking like, oh yeah, we're the nice little brother of the United States. We're just here to, keep the peace. We're very kind. We do everything nice. And I get to university, I get to college, and I find out like the last residential school closed in my lifetime in my province, where kids were stolen from their families and attempted to change their cultures. They were abused mentally, physically, sexually. And this was still happening in my lifetime. This wasn't a long time ago. And it really reminded me of just the concept of reconciliation, of B-15 is telling them like, we committed atrocities. And you have Docs and her crew saying like, mind your tone. But it's true. And that kind of reminded me of real life, how people don't want to have to, especially like settler people in the United States and Canada, all over the world, like, we don't want to acknowledge because we didn't do anything wrong. We didn't think we were doing anything wrong. I wasn't there when colonization happened, but still need to live and acknowledge that I benefit from it every single day. And that's what that conversation reminded me of. It was like, we were doing things wrong. We need to change. This was wrong. We need to change. And it's hard for people to accept that. So you got the one crew just totally saying, no, we were doing it right the whole time. The other half going, oh, yeah, no, we do need to change. And it brings some serious tension between the two groups. Adam, what did you think about that?
Yeah, you hit on the real world parallels eloquently right there. No notes on that. But I'm really glad that they're taking it in this direction, because like what's happened, like the whole first season, the question for the audience is like, what is the TVA? Like, how did these people get here? What is going on? Like, is this underground? Are we in space? Are we in the in-between world? Like, there's so many questions. And like, now we know all that, but now the questions are like, wait a minute. Like, now everybody's split in two. You've got these people that are like, they pulled us up from the timeline. Like, we have to get back out there and live our lives. And then everybody else is like, no, business as usual, like this kind of stuff. And they've just immediately established this as like more questions going forward, because even I'm like, for some of these people, I'm like, how are you not, you've just learned in this, like in the season 1 finale, that you lived no telling how full of a life. And then they were just like plucked out of that and have been here for however time works. I don't know, like, OB says 3 years, 400 years. Who knows how long any of them have been there? None of them have aged a day. But like, I'm immediately so curious as to why. Like, are they being influenced by Kang, or is this just like are they personally scared? Like, there's so many questions that are going to come from this. I'm like, I can't wait to learn more. But that contrast, I think they're doing a great job with it so far, because it fills that gap. Like, we were questioning so many things in the first season. They had to bring in some of that, or else it was going to be like almost a little bit jarring to just understand everything. I mean, it's time travel, so we were never going to understand everything that was going on. But there's already just immediate conflict going on, like interpersonal conflict between the TVA. And I love it. I think they're doing a great job with it.
And Aaron, we see that same conflict within Loki, like trying to explain it to Mobius. Like, I just wanted some time to think about it. Maybe he was actually right. It might be worse. There's war coming. We get our Council of Kangs teases. We get our Secret Wars teases throughout all of this. So, what's your take on kind of like the split between the two of the group? And like, Aaron Perine's the head of the TVA now. Like, how are you handling this shit?
Well, I mean, the funny thing is that I really did love like the sort of Star Trekian, like, do you sacrifice a few for the needs of the many kind of like vibes? Because like there are infinite timelines out there. Is it okay for you to sacrifice these couple of them, as like they would probably say it to themselves? But those are like B-15 does a good point of illuminating. Like these are so many people, so many lives, so many existences being snuffed out in the idea of the greater good. And you see it's not like there's not like you get to a certain point of people into the old thresher and now we're all safe and it's a utopia. You have to keep doing it over and over and over again because the loom will overload. So it really never stops. I like that. I guess they gave like the other judge had like idea for running it some different way, like trying to go some different way. And it wasn't like they all just pushed back immediately. Everybody does have like differing kind of takes on it. So it will be interesting to see. I mean, I feel like, what does Tom say to Robert Downey Jr. in Infinity War? If the bad guys incinerate the planet, there's no neighborhood to protect. Like, if Kang, if this war happens, it won't matter if we prune in timelines or not, because everybody's gonna die. Like, it all burns in the he remains of it all. So they got to figure out some way to do that. I really like this theming around authoritarianism in the Phase 4 and Phase 5 projects, because I think that the kids are going to have to end up dealing with it at some point, which is like, well, our parents, our forebears, our idols did it one way and that did not work. So what do we do now? How do we change it for the better? Even though there might have been good elements of it, it's obvious we can kind of do better. And I'm like, that's good. That's a nice through line. That's the stuff people have been asking for,
Yeah, exactly. The plot behind the plot of everything, the themes throughout have been so great through the first episode and even the first season. And I want to kind of talk next about, and I'm going to keep mostly throwing it to Aaron through this because I know he's got to get out of here a little bit earlier. So you talked about Loki and Mobius and how the two of them interacting together is just gold. We get a lot of that in the second half of the episode. Adam, you called it a bromance on Twitter, and then the Lokiist stands absolutely took it to you. So I do want to get your take as well. But Aaron, we also get the introduction of Ouroboros, OB, one of like the highlight of the episode. Kehi Kwan, he knows how to deal with the multiverse. He was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to understate just getting the right actor. That's the one thing, as everybody's been complaining about all sorts of stuff about the franchise. The one thing that's remained very good is the casting. Casting's been A plus from like years now. You should never, whoever's running the casting department is doing a phenomenal job. I wish they ran the scouting department for one of my favorite teams. Honestly, they identified need really well. He's both like very warm, but also just odd enough for a guy who's been sitting here minding you pneumatic tubes and fixing crap for the better part of 1,000 years or whatever. And it seems like there's something weird going on with him too, which adds to the mystery of the season as well. Because like Mobius doesn't remember coming down here, but also it took OB a while to figure out and remember. Oh yeah, it was like 400 years ago. Like, and the stuff with the blast shields, other stuff like that. He was pretty intent on like, hey man, we just lost him. I gotta protect everybody else. We gotta bring you back in. And I guess a more heroic or like more staunchly there's nothing weird here character would probably have given him more time or tried to stretch out to the absolute last second to get Loki back inside safety. But he was like, nope, gotta protect the entire thing. Sorry, press that big old red button. Excellent set design on all the parts with OB in it. Like, I spent so much time looking at the backgrounds of his little office. I'm like, there's so much stuff in here. Like, you all looks real. Like, you could pick up that book or pick up the screwdriver and that dumb lamp, which I think somebody in our comments yesterday said that they might have been doing Morse code, and I don't know if anybody's figured that out yet. I await. The Marvel fandom is very, very good at figuring weird stuff out. I want to see.
That's a new Rockstars or a heavy spoilers type of thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna wait till they break that all down, and then I'll figure it out from there. We analyze the themes, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. No Boy Scout training, no Scouts training out of you, TJ. Just like no Morse
Nope.
code is can't build your
Look,
fire, nothing. Okay, all right.
I can maybe tie a knot. I could I will always have a lighter on me, so I'm ready to start some fires because I'll have a lighter in my pocket. But that's really about it. Adam, what did you think about Loki, Mobius, OB, and your assault on Twitter over the past week?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up because the origin. So for people that are listening that may not be familiar, when I tweeted this, when the social embargo for Loki went up, I tweeted something about the bromance, and when by bromance I just meant Loki and Mobius, and the only reason that I ended up using that word is, as we've done many times, when I'm crafting a tweet and I realized I was over the character limit when I typed Loki and Mobius are amazing. And I was like, I'll just call them a bromance to cut 10 characters out and get under the character limit. And last I looked, I think I'm up to like over 300 quotes of people saying that it's very inappropriate and bad to call them a bromance. And for the people that are, that are Loki and Mobius stands. And it's like, that was not at all my intention to offend anybody or to like, say that they would be a bad couple, like so many people thought that I was referring to them, or that they shouldn't be a couple. Like, whatever they decide to do, whatever the showrunners and the creators decide to do, I trust them. I think, and we don't have enough representation, especially like gay couples and anything like that in the MCU. So if that's the direction they want to take it in, they have my full 100% support. But it's like, I didn't enjoy being painted as a horrible person just for using the word for like hundreds of people just for using the word bromance, because I love all three of them. Like, to go back to what you asked me, are incredible. And I was talking about this morning, that scene where they're going back and forth about the three, when they first go down there and meet OB, and Loki is just like us, like watching, and so like hilarious to see OB. And
there's no one else down here. Just OB.
Yeah, it's like that. I was laughing my ass off the first time I watched that, and I was laughing just as hard today. It didn't take anything away from me at all. Like, watching them, like Mobius just so cluelessly, like no idea what's going on or anything. But like Aaron said, it's another really interesting point because OB seems to remember pretty much everything. Like, even though it takes him just like a minute, but Loki. I'm already so much in my head that I just called him Lokius. Mobius is like, I don't know if he's just getting those regular memory wipe, like if he's got an appointment for that like once a month and he just doesn't even remember it. But like, OB has been down there for 400 years and he still remembers it. Like, as soon as he sees him, he's like, "Oh, Mobius, it's been 400 years since I've seen you." And Mobius is
my
like,
good friend.
And Mobius is like, "Did I have key lime pie or key lime pie for breakfast? I don't know. I can't remember." So it's like, I don't know. I hope they explore some of that more as the show goes along. But for the three of them, I won't say the forbidden word again, but all three of them are absolutely incredible.
The secret key behind the Loki series, and shout out to my New Girl fans, is that Mobius is Nick Miller and Loki is Schmidt. And there's real love there, sometimes more than platonic. It's they talk about romance in their relationship in the show, but that's who they are. That's Nick and Schmidt. Their interactions all the time, that's Nick and Schmidt. There's so much that happened in this episode, because like after that, Aaron, like we get a full on like the scene with the spaghettification, the skin being ripped off, the Loki having to prune himself from existence. Like, that could have been its own episode. Like, it's just so much going down. What did you think of the conclusion? Seeing Sylvie in the elevator, Loki gets pruned. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's like bizarre, isn't it? Like, I'm like sitting there in the background, like, oh my gosh, we got an entire season worth of mysteries in like 14 minutes. Like, when he went to the future timeline, and I'm like, oh, I like, kind of, because you watch these things and you kind of keep track of like how much time is left in the episode. I'm like, there's no way. Like, I almost thought he wasn't going to get back. And I'm like, is the cliffhanger going to be he doesn't get back? And now we spend the entire season trying to get back to the thing from literally the beginning, but that didn't happen. But seeing Sylvie, and then like the emotion work on like Tom Hiddleston's face, the tear and like the real profound confusion, like, but how? The phone ringing, of course, is gonna draw a lot of the attention, of course, but also who pruned him from behind is going to be a bunch of attention too, because it's just so convenient. I'm like, either somebody did this on accident and it's a cosmic accident where everything worked out, everything's great, and or it's himself or Sylvie or freaking it could be He Who Remains. Who even knows? Nobody could. You could tell me anything and I'd believe it right now. So it's very strong to have both of the major reunions from season one occur right here off the bat, so that we're not sitting here waiting, like you said, the Falcon Winter Soldier problem, where episode 2 before we actually get the two of them together. Even that short bit, and it's not all of Sylvie we get in episode either, so it's not like that's it. We get that the stinger as well. So I'm like, it just did such a good job of drawing you in for the rest of the ride. Like like episode 2 could completely deviate from what's going on, but I feel like getting off to the good start is so important for these series, and it really accomplished that by bringing her in at the end, and like just more Tom Hiddleston getting to emote and be like, what? Like he can I just tangent? He reminds me so much of like Tom Cruise in freaking War of the Worlds throughout so much of this episode. I think it's the running, but like obviously just the bewilderment, just the absolute what the F is going on his face through about 20 minutes of this is extraordinary, right?
Tom Hiddleston is so incredible, and as he continues to play Loki, like it's truly a masterclass of acting. Like you said, like it's just spectacular. And we get Sylvie in the post-credit scene again. She's working in her McDonald's. She's living her life. She's happy. And so obviously that's going to continue to get explored more here as well. I want to theorize my time slipping in the TVA, and then Aaron, I want to throw it to you for let us know where people can find you on socials and where they can find Phase Zero as well. But the rules in this episode, they do not stick with the rules that we know of MCU time travel. It gets laid out so clearly between Bruce and his crew as he's trying to explain it in Endgame. Your past can't be a future, etc. But your future is your past. It doesn't make sense. It's a different timeline. It's a different universe, as we learned through season 1 of Loki. But as we hear OB say, time slipping in the TVA is impossible. And then he gets it. I do like their own little, like, it reminded me a little bit of Don Cheadle in Iron Man 2 being like, I'm here, get over it, whatever. Like almost as like a meta nod to the recast, with OB going just like, that makes perfect logical sense. There are no flaws in our logic here. That almost just made me think of like okay, just go with it. Whatever, just go with it. But the reason you can't time slip inside the TVA, which of course Loki now can because it happened, is because there's one. It exists outside of time and space. There is only the one TVA. So when he time slips and he travels back or he travels forward, those aren't parallel timelines. Those aren't alternate universes. Those are just the one TVA, which is why it's impossible, because that breaks the laws of multiversal travel and quote unquote time travel, as they have called it in the MCU. But with there only being one, it does have that same Days of Future Past effect, where if we change our past, it will impact our future, because that's not a variant of OB. That is just the one OB in the TVA. And so that's why it goes back, and it kind of goes to the Back to the Future time travel rules, the Days of Future Past time travel rules, because it's not an alternate universe. It's the first time that they've actually full on time traveled. It's the first time that they didn't just go to a different universe. It's the first time that we've seen them actually go back to the same one and have it not create a parallel universe, because it can't. It's outside of time and space. And so without going, since it's the same one, those memories imprint in OB as he's having that conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't take it to like, so I'm probably more closely aligned with you on this, because I believe, like, honestly, like you said, it's like there are these other universes where there are all these variant universes or whatever, and there's just the TVA. Unless later episodes contradict me, we can come back to it if
Yeah.
possible if that happens. But like, I think it's just one, and I think it's unique because personally in my head, I think it's a circle like the Sacred Timeline. I don't think that the TVA is like a linear kind of deal. I know all of it's supposed to just replay, but in this instance, the TVA is much more concentric circle, like a very much smaller circle. So we've gone through this a couple of times, and that's why everybody remembers things so many times. That's why people's memories can't handle, if you go and you get to the end of a side one of a record, side B, you have to flip it to like record anything else. That's why no one can remember anything. At least that's how I read it too. So if you could just part, I know everybody has poured so much into the in-game time travel rules about how you can't have, like you said, the Hulk, your past can't be your present, blah, 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 blah stuff. We've now had 2 separate incidents of there being a closed time loop in Phase 4 and Phase 5. Like Ms. Marvel, her going back and basically ensuring her own creation and her own like origin story, and now it looks like for Loki possibly doing the exact same thing. So obviously we're in an era now where you can have a closed time loop. I don't know if we're ever going to have anything where it's like changes and it doesn't revert itself immediately, but as of right now, that's where I'm operating at.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And even like the slight difference of Ms. Marvel, the kind of way I view the Ms. Marvel one is like, once Kamala does that, that ensures that like multiple Kamalas will keep doing that. And it's a different Kamala that does it every time. So technically, Kamala already got her bangle from doing that. And so what she did when she went back in time is she created another universe, since they're infinite every time something changes, and another one. Well, now there's another Ms. Marvel in that universe because of how that shook down. Whereas I think TVH, just like, you actually see his memories change. When she gets back, nothing changed for her. And it's just she understood that story of how she got it. But in Loki, it's like, oh, their memories are actually changing. And so that's my thought process of like, Ms. Marvel doesn't change the future. She just understood it because she saw what happened. Whereas TVA, it's like their brain chemistry is now changing because they have new added memories from that previous piece in time.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like, man, listen, if you want science stuff, like if you were like, I'm just going to sit down and enjoy myself a Marvel television show to decompress after work, I got some bad news, some terrible news for you. You picked the wrong one. You should go watch, like, probably Ms. Marvel, or go watch maybe the Falcon Winter Soldier if you can handle the stuff. Heck, go watch the first 4 episodes of WandaVision.
Yeah.
Go any further. Just the first 4. That's it. It's crazy. It's really interesting. Like, I just really fascinated. And since I don't know where it's going, I'm like, we're obviously gonna learn more. My only thing I would leave you guys with is that I rewatched For All Time Always, which is like the finale of season 1 before I watched season 2. And if you look at the way that Jonathan Majors delivers certain lines as he remains, when Sylvie calls him a liar, he does not back away from, or I'm a liar. Like, he does like, okay, and so he's not above, I read it as, he's not above that. When he told them that, oh, time works differently at TVA, and there's no time slipping, and this is like not like those other timelines, he could have really just been lying to Mobius and all of them. I mean, also, poor everybody. They're already having an existential crisis because the timekeepers aren't real. And then the guy who would be your ruler lies to you, too. Everybody's just going to be sitting there looking off into, like, the distance, the mid-distance, like eating key lime pie and weighing their lives by episode 3 if this stuff keeps happening. Poor everybody who was in TVA. They're just trying to do their jobs. Very menial, very, like, regular desk job. Poor Casey, just trying to get through a day, and then like trucks are like flying through windows, like the universe isn't real, my whole life is a lie. I hope there's a jet ski waiting for him and the rest of these TVA people too.
It's really so, like, it parallels so much of reality in a totally exaggerated way, where it's like the time we're living in right now, it's the best quality of life for the most part in the history of humankind, while also the most existential terror in the history of humankind because we're aware of everything happening all around us at all times. And so like the show mimics that in such an impressive way, and even just like boils down to, it's like you said, Adam, like we, as much as we loved Ahsoka, the Star Wars shows have a bit of a bad habit recently of telling instead of showing. They tell us about things that have happened as opposed to showing us the things that have happened. This Loki episode had really focused on the showing, and when they told, it was about things we've already seen. You know, we have that Hunter going to Mobius being like, sorry about pruning you. I was my bad. And he's like, you were just following orders. It's Renslayer I should be mad at. Like, it's a lot of the similar philosophical questions we deal with in society of like, bad people do bad things, but there's someone else telling them to do it. What level of responsibility and accountability do they have to take? It's such interesting concepts. And they'll be talking about Loki on Phase Zero as well, where you can find Aaron Perine every Thursday night immediately after the show. Aaron, where can the people find you on socials?
So it's at some like Hornet on Twitter, and of course over at comicbook.com. I have an interview this weekend is Spooktacular time on Nickelodeon. So I talked to the director of Monster High 2 and of course the Monster High animated series and the Loud House Halloween special about some lower stakes scares because they don't let me near the hard stuff over here at Comic Book. I don't get to do any of the really scary stuff, and I prefer it that way. So keep your eyes on my socials for that. BD, Jenna, Jamie do a great job. There's been a bunch of clips from this show already. Like, we really, really are excited. It really does feel like an event. Like Thursday night felt like an event in a real way. And I'm ready to have that back. I think that the time change really helped all of us too.
Yeah, big time.
As much as I love 2020, I love 2021 when we were waking up to see WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier and Loki the first time. But there is no way we could not have done a reaction show.
We had nothing else to do then. We were excited to wake up because we were just chilling the rest of the time.
I would not have showed up. I had told Jim Viscardi I'm not coming. If we had to do a reaction show at 3 a.m. Pacific, no, I'm not going to be here in the morning. Sorry, Jim. Much apologies to Jim. I would not. I refuse. We brought that up because Jamie was like, "Oh, baby, I'm not staying up till 4 a.m. to do these after shows. Are you crazy?" She's like, "I'm not getting up." So it's been much.
Jamie couldn't even do the 10 a.m. some of the time.
No. It was dark. It was dark in the early days of Phase Zero. These are the early days. She was like, it's just so hard to get up. And I'm like, we gotta get with people first thing in the morning, Jamie. They've been up all night theorizing, especially in WandaVision. It was like, wake up and get your content. Come get your juice. If we can get anywhere near back to that'd be tremendous. I don't think any of that's ever going to be that crazy because, like you said, we're all nothing else to do. But if we ever even approach it again, that would be amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Very well said. Thank you so much for joining us today. Follow Aaron on socials and check out the Phase Zero podcast, where we, of course, just had Jamie on as well to talk episode 7 of Ahsoka. Check out her new podcast as well, Loving the Time of Hydra, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Anniversary Pod. And yeah, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your errands today, and we'll close out a few things here.
Okay. Bye, Adam. Bye, TJ. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you so much. Adam, what do you think of my theory? Does it make sense, the time traveling theory?
Oh, well, so here's where I'm at on it. I'm just remain in a state of confusion about the differences between multiverse and timeline. And it was so funny because I've always considered myself a Marvel savant. Like, I've been watching this my entire life. I know what's going on in these movies. And I remember watching Loki season 1 with one of my friends who's a more casual viewer, and he asked me, he's like, wait, so are timelines and multiverses two different things? And I was like, I don't know. I truly had no answer. And it was funny because I was thinking, I'm glad you brought it up, the whole there only being one TVA, so that's why the past affects the present, because there is no, it's all kind of on a loop. And because I'm watching and I'm like, the whole reason, when when they're having those conversations and OB is thinking of all these things, and as Loki's talking to him, and then because he's like, no, I don't know who this is, and then as Loki mentions, he's like, oh wait, or he's like the temporal loom, I think is what it is. He's like, I have no idea what that is. And then he's like, wait, no, I do have one here. My interpretation of that was like, literally 30 seconds ago, he had no idea what that was. And then now he does. But then it's like, that means it was always in his desk. It didn't just appear. Like, it's so, I'll be honest, like, I'm not one of those people. I cannot pretend to just have a good, like a sound grasp on it because I remain so confused. Like in the first season, like when they go to this, I don't even remember that grocery store when they first see Sylvie. When they see Sylvie for the first time, I'm like, is this in our universe? Is this in a different universe? Or are we just in the same universe but on a different timeline? Are there multiple timelines in one universe? Like, I don't think. I think they could have done a little bit better job kind of clarifying all that. But it's one of those things. I personally don't have a problem with being confused. I mean, it's time travel. I'm not the kind of person that's
time
like,
travel.
Right, exactly. It's like that's exactly how I am. Like, they're just doing crazy shit, and honestly, I'm perfectly fine with it because it's like, I don't know. It's the same thing too. We didn't really talk about this much, but one of the biggest complaints has been people upset about all this time travel tech jargon, like not understanding it. And I'm like, most shows do this thing where they're like, for like the temporal loom, when OB's first talking about the temporal loom and all this kind of stuff, and everybody's like, what the hell is a temporal loom? Like a lot of shows will have a scene where the three of them are walking through a hallway and then there's one on the wall and somebody's like, what's that? And he's like, oh, that's a temporal loom. It does this and this and this. So then when he brings it up later, then we know. And like, this show's not doing that, which I'm perfectly fine with. They're going to, I mean, and it's like when they bring these things up, at least in the first episode, they explain it like pretty quick after. Like when he first says, when OB first brings up a temporal loom, he explains it to Mobius, like 15 and Loki in separate timelines. So we get a double dose of it. Like if you're confused, at least in this first episode, it's like OB's explaining everything twice to Loki in the past and now to Mobius in the future, present, where whatever you call it. But like, I don't know. I have a tough time grasping the differences and the concepts of time travel versus the multiverse. But like, I still enjoy why it's not one of the confusion doesn't take away any of the enjoyment for me. And I think even though I had a bit of some trouble understanding your theory, just because it's like the time travel stuff is all very confusing to me, I think it's definitely plausible. Like it's, that could definitely be the case, like what you said, for sure.
I think they've definitely done, like, they could have done a better job with their verbiage throughout too, like the way they've described it differently throughout the different things. But a quick time travel 101, multiverse hopping 101, or universe hopping 101 before we get out of here today. It's technically not time travel, I guess, what we've seen before, because although it begins as time travel, what we see in Endgame, they go back in their own timeline. By going back, they create an entirely new universe. And so when going back in a timeline, you can create a branch universe. There's only one multiverse, everyone. There's only one multiverse. This means multiple universes. So, of course, all the Marvel universes we've seen in different content throughout the years, because there's now a multiverse, it all exists in the multiverse. They're in their own universes. Each of their own could have branch timelines that would turn into new universes if someone else in those universes time traveled. Now, because there is only one TVA, it exists outside of time and space. When someone time slips there, time travels there, which was thought to be impossible, they cannot create a new branch timeline because it exists outside of time. Therefore, it is the first real full time traveling that anyone has done yet. And on top of Loki, we have so much great content out right now. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, follow the Agents of Fandom on socials, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, because it's nonstop. There's the Nolan North and Zeb Wells interviews that just hit our feeds. We're talking Loki, we're talking Ahsoka, we're talking Gen V, all these different great things up on our website right now. We just had our amazing interview with Joanna Robinson and Dave Gonzalez and Gavin Edwards on MCU, the Reign of Marvel Studios, up on YouTube, up on the podcast feed, as well as Carlos has his review up on agentsfandom.com. New York Comic Con coming next week. I've just been getting so many emails, so many great interview and coverage opportunities coming our way. So make sure you stay tuned, because there is so much great content coming our way right now. Adam, we crushed it. Nice quick show. No hour-long ones, hour 15 like we needed to do during Ahsoka. But we will be back next week with more content, at least the Loki show, but we got a lot more interviews and such coming as well. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next week. Peace.